So it's coming up to our 10th anniversary of Poetry East here at the London Buddhist Centre. It's been a fantastic series of events, Poetry East. We've had incredible poets. We've had Michael Longley, we've had Don Patterson, but we've also had novelists like Colm Toibin. We've had Michael Frayn, the playwright. We've had just fantastic evenings. And I wanted to try and get the word out a bit more. I wanted to get even more people coming. Like when we had Wendy Cope, we must have had 100 people. Joe Shapcott sold out 100 people. We had Anthony Gormley recently, which was completely rammed, as you can imagine. And the events are so good. I just want to try to say a bit more about why it's important, because people are saying to me, oh yeah, it sounds nice, but I'm not really into art, or I'm not an arty person, or even more people saying I'm not a poetry person. You know, some people are into poetry, I'm not really into that. And I've been thinking more and more, not being into poetry is a bit like saying I'm not into the weather, or I'm not into enjoying myself. You know, something like really weird like that. So I thought I'd try and say just a few things about why poetry matters and why anyone should read it. Because weirdly, poetry has kind of lost its mass audience with modernism and all that difficulty of modernism. Poetry kind of lost its mass audience. Before then, it was like a huge genre, you know, like film. Everybody read poems. And with Eliot and all those guys, it kind of lost that. And it needs to regain it, and there's every reason why it should regain it. So my particular take is at the moment about why poetry matters and why you should come to Poetry East and be introduced to some fantastic poets, is that, well, what I've been reflecting on is our particularity, that the nature of being, which is always, well, in my experience, rather burdensomely particular. So much in my life, so often in my life, I think I could imagine this done better. I could imagine a person who's deeper than me, funnier than me, broader than me, more knowledgeable than me. Someone like a more universal man who knows about sport and science and who's like really mature. In other words, I'm imagining a lot of like an abstraction. Someone who's not particular, someone who's general, the universal man or the universal woman. But no such thing exists. There's only particulars. There's only particular me and particular you, particular poem, particular computer on my desk over there, particular book, particular cupboard. There are no universals, there's no abstractions, there's no people, there's no countries. There's particular people who come from particular countries with particular histories. And yet, there's something in our particularity that is universal. We're not so unique that we can't relate to each other. We have something within our particularity that speaks of something much more than that. But the only way you can get to that much more than that, the only way you can get to that universal, is through the particular. Not around. You can't ever get around the particular or above the particular, because you just end up in dead abstractions and banalities. So I think poetry at its rare best, what it can do is get you right up close to the particular person waking up on a particular morning talking about his or her particular feelings. But when they do that really well, and so many poets throughout time have done that really well, when they do it really well, they touch on something both particular and universal. And when they do that, you have this feeling, I'm just like that too. I'm just the same. So I was recently reading a poem by Bernard O'Donoghue, and it was so good it made me think that I'd had a rural Irish Catholic childhood, which of course I haven't had. Or I read a Wordsworth poem and it makes me think I've been walking in the Malverns all my life, which of course I haven't done. Any good poem reaches their hand across to meet you. I've been reading Elizabeth Bishop again, and it makes me think that I've lived in Nova Scotia, or I spent a long time in Brazil, neither of which I've done. But these particularities of these people, Elizabeth Bishop, Philip Larkin, Bernard O'Donoghue, Michael Longley, Don Patterson, Wendy Cope, Kay Ryan, at their best, they tell you, look how particular life is. And by doing that, show you its universality, show you that in your particularity there's something more than the particular. So come along to Poetry East, because that would be your place to really meet a poet, or meet a writer, or meet an artist, find out about what makes them write, what makes them create sculpture, what makes them do what they do, and to experience it and get a sense of why it's going to be important for you. So come along to Poetry East.